Hello, my darlings. Welcome back to Marion K Tarot. So, this week it is the Crow Tarot that we are using. Let's see. The week commencing 25th to the 31st of May. So, the final week of May. Oh, boo. Boo. And when you're watching this, I will be in London. Hopefully, I've survived. We just need to send good thoughts to me, please. So as I say, I am pre-recording this like I do always, but I've never usually pre-record this far in advance. So Aquarius, Gemini season is very much in our energies. We are in the energy of the Eight of Swords, so look at that whatever way you would like to. In the UK, at least this is a bank holiday weekend. Yay! Woohoo! We love a bank holiday here in the UK. Don't know what else is happening, honestly. I don't know. Because, I just do these totally unhinged. But we are using the Crow Tarot. And when I pulled the Crow Tarot out of the jar, I'm always honest, right? I really wanted to go for the Murder of Crows. I love crows, corvids in general. I always have done. They're one of my guides, but I like the Murder of Crows because it's a wee bit dark. It's a wee bit sinister, and it's actually a deck that I've used a lot for personal shadow work, for personal grief work. In actual fact, it was the tarot I reached for more than anything else, to be honest. After my dad passed away, it was the deck that I found myself reaching for. So, with that being said, we are using the Crow Tarot by MJ Malene. I'm so sorry. I just crucify that name every time, but I do like this deck. It is got a lot of depth to it, and I remember when I first seen it and I got it, and it was a very nice story how I got this deck, which I will not go into because it makes me a wee bit sad now, because that friend is no longer in my life and it's quite sad. I do miss him. Anyway, moving on. Where'd that come from? I don't know. So let's see. What energies have we got? What do we need to look forward to for Monday the 25th of May until Sunday the 31st of May? Let me see what have we got going on. Do you know, I had a feeling she was going to come up. I just had a feeling. Right, at the bottom of the deck we have got the Empress. Okay, so whatever we are wanting to nourish this week, whatever we are wanting to grow this week, it is an ideal opportunity to encompass that energy. We can take a really good look at our resources this week, right? Now, our resources doesn't need to be financial. Absolutely, it can be. The Empress is ruled by Venus. Venus rules these things: finances, abundance, or physical assets. Also beauty and other lovely things, right? When the Empress shows up, I often feel like it's a call to action. It's a call to action to look at ourselves, look at what's going on in our lives, where we need to nurture ourselves, where we need to perhaps even fertilise parts of ourselves. And with being Gemini season, what this feels like to me is, let's nourish our mind, okay, going forward. And it actually shows up in the cards proper, that feeling in nourishing our mind. What is it, do you want to go and read a book? do you want to go and get out into nature and just, maybe read a book in nature? If that's at all possible. But it just feels like, that kind of a let's touch grass, because we're going to be very much in our head over Gemini season, with it being an air sign. However, let's not forget the importance of surrounding ourselves, if possible, with nature, if possible, with the things that we love. Let's show our abundance and things. It can very much, looking at the fact that there is a cup here within a heart within the sun. It could be, that there is maybe a blossoming relationship, that you need to nurture this week. Congratulations if it is. How lovely for you. Or it can be that relationship with yourself. It can be a relationship with your finances, with your work, with your businesses, etc., etc. However it shows up for you is the important part of this. Okay, so that's the Empress. She is grounding us, and she is at the base of our reading. Now, the cards proper, right, are very interesting. Okay, because we're all air and fire, right? And I like a bit of air and I like a bit of fire. So we have got the Queen of Swords, my favourite card, in case you didn't know, in case you're new here. The Queen of Swords is my favourite card. Okay, then we have got the Star, and then we've got the Page of Wands. Now this is interesting energy here. And what it feels like to me is the Queen of Swords is showing up here for this week, for the 25th to 31st of May. And she's kind of pointing in a direction here, It's like that wee wing, it's like she's pointing in a direction. And I feel like, particularly with the cards last week, there was this kind of a, and I know this because I've literally just done the recording for last week. But following on, the card we ended on was the Death card. And I think, picking up this week, what the Queen of Swords is here to do is to show you the new direction that we're going on. Okay? Show you the next steps, if you like, whether that is physically the next steps, or if it's mentally the next steps. It's like, what's the next quest? What information have we gathered over this period of time, and what are we going to do with it? Right? We've then got the Star, and that's the Star. The Star is a card of Aquarius, so again, very much like, so the Queen of Swords is Libra, the Star is Aquarius, both air signs, and they're showing up during Gemini season, right? So we've got a really strong air influence, element of air. So what does that mean? It means communication, it means thought, it means information gathering. Okay, and I think that's really what we need to look at this week. Information gathering, and information that can help us heal things. Parts of ourselves that have maybe been kind of a battered and bruised a bit. Maybe thought processes that we've had about ourselves. There's an opportunity this week to heal from that. Maybe the opinions of other people, whilst we try our best not to let that affect us, it often does affect us. That's something, that I would suggest to you looking at this week. How do the words of others affect you? How have they affected you? And how can you begin to heal for that? How can you look at different ways? Like sometimes you're in a situation where you can't always leave, the dynamic, etc., where these words or these opinions or these like difficult conversations happen quite often. So how do you reconcile that, and how do you heal for that? Do you go looking for other ways? Maybe, dare I say, maybe some is, maybe we need to talk to a professional, maybe we need to go for a wee bit of therapy, which I highly advocate for. I think that particularly, and I mean obviously I'm looking through a UK lens, and I know a lot of yous are in the States, and it's like it's very normalised to go you know, and go and see a therapist, etc. Whereas in the UK, it's still quite, it's kind of hushed, you know, it's kind of a whisper behind hands, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, I'm going for therapy, you know, that kind of thing. But if there is something that you feel that you need to talk to somebody about, then please do reach out and help, you know, and ask for that help and assistance. What we have got following on for that is the Page of Wands. Right, now, I love the Page of Wands, right? The Page of Wands is like this overexcitable, hyperactive teenager, right? This energy, and it's like, right, can we go? I'm really excited to go and do something new, to go and learn about something new, to go on this adventure. And I think that these opportunities that are presenting themselves to you, it could be that, you know, you've been sitting in a place of stagnation, and it maybe be since, it might even have been since like January, you know, like the new year ticked in, and you know, we're now heading towards like the middle of the year, and you're maybe kind of looking back in the last like 5-6 months, etc., and saying, right, what have I achieved? You know, what has been my achievements, and you know, how have I grown, or have I, you know, like almost like I speak to so many people right now, and it's like they're in the precipice, you know, and they're just in the precipice of things like all kicking off and in the best possible way, you know, but then it's like, is it ready, you know, and but they can feel that momentum bubbling up underneath, you know, and they're just not quite sure what that means for them. So what I would suggest is, it's like, you know, do your due diligence, right? Think. So it's like, take the information, use it to help yourself heal, and now go in a direction that is following your passions. Right? If you need to learn something new, maybe you've learned something new through this healing process. You know, because it's like the Queen of Swords. She's what I say, she's a tough love queen, right? It's like it's not that she does not care, right? She cares very, very much. Okay, it's just that sometimes our method of delivery can seem a little bit harsh, and it's not meant to be like that, because she looks at the facts, she cuts through the emotion, you know, and she thinks very logically about the things that are happening. You know, it's like she's associated with Libra. Libra's the sign of the scales. It's the only mechanical sign in the zodiac, you know, so like emotions are not like something that affects decision making. You know, it's like the decisions are made for the mind, no the heart, with the Queen of Swords, and it's always, you know, she's looking at it for your best perspective, the best way forward for herself or the people that she cares about. You know, so it's like this healing energy for the Star, and then we have got the, you know, the Page of Wands, who is like that enthusiastic person. Right, okay, I've learned, right, okay, I'm healed. I'm healed enough to go and try something new, to dare to be different. That's what the Page of Wands is like, you know, because it's the embodiment of fire. You know, it's that, let's pursue our passions, let's just go for it. Like, you know, the time for waiting is done. Let's just go. And so this week, what I would suggest to you is, take every opportunity that presents itself to you, okay? And yes, be thoughtful, you know, think about offers, etc. But don't allow the opinions of others to bother you. Don't allow your what ifs to cloud your judgment, you know. It's like, if you have that question in your head, right, or that sentence comes in and it says, oh, what if it doesn't work, or what if I fail, or, you know, just turn that around and say, but what if you succeed? Okay, just try that, and give yourself permission. Okay, my loves, thank you so much for joining me. I will be back next week, and I'll be able to tell you all about London, and everything that happened, and that'll be super fun. Okay, take care, lots of love, bye.